Today's podcast is going to be about a book that's one of my favorite books. It's a kid's book called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. And this is a beautifully illustrated book. It's just a fantastic book. If you ever get a chance, again, The Boy, the Fox, the Mole, and the Horse. And I'm going to give you some different quotes from it and just talk about how what we teach kids, we should probably be relearning ourselves as adults, as leaders. First thing is there's a quote that says, "What's the bravest thing that you've ever heard?" All right. Or I'm sorry, what's the bravest thing that you ever said? And the answer was help. And what I love about this, asking for help is bravery. Asking for help is hard because as a leader, we all think that we're supposed to know all the answers, which is not true. I think that our staff, our people, they want to know if they can trust us. I don't think that they all think that we should know every answer to everything. And leadership isn't about knowing all the answers. It's not about having all the answers. It's about knowing when to ask for support. It's knowing about when to ask for help. And what is interesting is that very commonly, I'm sure that you've said in the past, I have done for sure, if I don't know the answer to something, I don't know that, but I'll find out and get right back to you about it. And that is great for people because if they're coming to you and they don't know something, but they think that you either will know the answer or will know how to get the answer for them, that's fantastic. Now, as long as you aren't basically being the person who is the hero and making sure that everyone can always come to you for every answer, which is never going to help you as a leader, you're okay. But I think that what's key is that we all need to be able to, as leaders, ask for help and then teach our staff to be able to ask for help. Because this idea of vulnerability is a wonderful, great concept. Vulnerability creates connection. Vulnerability creates trust. And that is essential, right? Those are like foundational for strong leadership. So I think that what's important is that as leaders, let's make sure that we are brave. Let's make sure that we are willing to be vulnerable and ask for help. And I know very, very well that, vulnerability, that's not something that most people think equates to leadership, but it does. Because when people know that we are struggling at times also, and they still see us moving forward, they still see us being optimistic and hopeful, even when we're struggling at times, that teaches them to be able to do the same. All right, so another quote that I love. There's a quote that says, "Sometimes just getting up and carrying on is brave and magnificent." All right? Sometimes just getting up and carrying on is both brave and magnificent. And that, if you asked me, is the definition of resilience. I've always kind of viewed resilience as this idea of moving forward, all right, amid all of the chaos that's around you. And resilience isn't flashy, all right? Resilience, I think, is really found in showing up. And especially when things get hard, are you going to be a person who gets back up? Again, there's a great Japanese proverb or whatever they want to call it that says, fall down 9 times, get up 10. And I believe in that firmly. I have been knocked down at times in my life. And I mean painfully, just where so much was taken away from me. And what is so interesting is that it's first of all, it's okay to be down for a little bit. It's okay to be sad, to be angry, to be whatever, disappointed. That's okay. And so it's always important to feel the feelings and then move forward. Because in my life, you've heard me say before, I will not be a victim. In my life, I will be the hero of my story. What I think is so important about resilience, what I think is so great about this quote, is that I want to always be a person who gets back up. All right. I always want to be a person who does the work, all right, who believes, who has hope, And through that, I'll be able to show this quiet consistency, right, as a leader that helps other people to know that when they get knocked down, all right, when they just get smacked in the face by life, that it's okay, right? That be down for a minute, that's okay, and then get back up. And as long as we always get back up as people, as leaders, man, that is resilience, right? And what a wonderful thing to teach those people around us. All right. Next quote is one that says, being kind to yourself is one of the greatest kindnesses that there is. And I love that. Being kind to yourself is one of the greatest kindnesses that there is. For me, what's important with that is that we have so many leaders, so many people who they're so hard on themselves. Right? You expect to be perfect. You think that you have to be perfect, especially as a leader, and you don't. I think that what is interesting is that self-leadership really starts with self-compassion. And what is interesting is that I teach all the time in the coaching I do with people that there are absolutely times where we need to be selfish, right? Now, great leaders are selfless most of the time, but they are also selfish. Because if all that you ever do is give and give and give and give and give, eventually you're going to be empty. And one of the keys is being kind to yourself, being compassionate to yourself, giving yourself grace is such a great way to be able to balance out the giving and the taking. And remember that inner critic, that monkey mind that I talk about, we need to make sure that we shut that thing down. We need to make sure that we recognize when our inner critic is sabotaging our own confidence. I mean, it just doesn't do us any good. And we all have an inner critic. The key is, are you able to talk to yourself in positive ways and not just listen to that negativity that at times comes up for all of us? I think that what's so important is that if we show ourselves kindness, right, if we show ourselves compassion, we can then give kindness and give compassion to other people way, way more. All right, so next one. There's one that I like that says, everyone is a bit scared, but we are less scared together. Isn't that a great quote? Everyone is a bit scared, but we are less scared together. And I think that what is key is that real leaders, we don't live without fear, right? We don't erase fear. What we do is we create environments where we feel safe and other people around us feel safe. And that's big because the more that I can create an environment, a culture where people feel like they can face their own fear, man, I have created something special. And what is key is that we need to make sure, right? We need to make sure that we are recognizing that at times it's okay to be scared. The key is, do you have a tribe? All right. Do you have a group of people that you can turn to and they will help you to feel safe again? All right. And that's the culture. That's the environment. If you do that, you've created something special. And I think that it's important. Obviously, I hope everyone understands I'm talking about psychological safety. All right. And one of the keys of the psychological safety is this idea of empathy, all right? Empathy for ourselves, empathy for other people is what creates this idea of psychological safety. And the more that we can understand it's okay to be scared, all right? And the more that we can appreciate the fact that when we are with our people, all right, when we created a tribe of people that we turn to and know and love, that will always make us feel less scared. All right, that's such a cool thing. All right, so I'll do another one. There's a quote, what do you think is the biggest waste of time? right? In the book, what do you think is the biggest waste of time? And the reply is comparing yourselves to others, all right? And I think that what is interesting is that we all do this. We all compare ourselves to other people. And comparison, unfortunately, it just kills identity. It kills purpose. It kills meaning in yourself. And what's important is that I want to make sure that you define success on your terms, right? You figure out what success is for you. And what's cool is that success can be mental, emotional, financial, can be professional, personal, physical, health-wise. Success is different for everyone. And that's awesome. It's beautiful. But don't ever try to climb someone else's ladder. All right. Don't ever look at success as, oh, well, this person did this, and so I should do the same thing to be considered successful. Hopefully they're aware of what success is to themselves, and that's their idea of success. You need to figure out your own. All right. I'll give you another quote, and it's a beautiful one from the horse. Isn't it odd? We can only see ourselves from the outside, but nearly everything happens on the inside. Isn't that cool? We see the external from people, and I'll tell you, social media does this big time. People look happy all the time, and they're doing fun stuff all the time, and it's not true all the time. We need to always remember that what we see on the outside of people and what we project on the outside for ourselves is not always what's happening on the inside, because most of our lives happen on the inside. And leadership is deeply internal, right? The more that we can be anchored in self-awareness, right, on the internal, the better of a leader we'll be. I hope the happier that we will be. So make sure you spend your time looking inside, all right? What are these values? What are your principles that shape your leadership, that shape your perspective, that create your impact? If we have a life of integrity, if we are able to make sure that we are knowing ourselves first before we show ourselves to other people second, we can be a much, much better leader. All right. Another quote. When the big things feel out of control, all right, when the big things feel out of control, focus on what you love right under your nose. I love this one because when life gets too chaotic, all right, when either at home or at work, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff happening to you, at you, in your internal, external world, all right? What we can do is focus on our circle of control. What we can do is focus and love what's right under our nose. We need to make sure that as people and as leaders, we need to stay grounded, all right? We need to stay grounded in our purpose, in our mission. We need to make sure that we do not panic when we get hit in the face. And I think that we all need to know that life is going to give us sharp turns in our path. Life is going to give us real difficulties where we don't know if we're going to make it in a relationship. We don't know if we're going to make it at work. We don't know if we're going to have a relationship with one of our kids that's going to work out long term. Right? But the key is our small actions, our present focus is what allows us to overcome this. All right. So when the big things feel out of control, all right, we need to make sure we focus what is right under our nose, what we love the most, what's in our circle of control. The more that we do that, the happier we'll be, and the better of a leader we will be. All right. Last one. It's a super simple one, but one that I love. The quote is, "You fell, but I've got you." Again, this book, it's an amazing, wonderful book. Amazing book. And what a simple thing. You fell, but I've got you. And what is interesting is that true leadership is about being there for those around us. True leadership is making sure that we serve. True leadership is about helping to create a better future for those around us. All right? So what does it mean to you to truly show up? What does it mean to you that when other people fall around you, that you've got them? Because great leadership, great people are there for their people. All right? So in general, this book, I hope you get a chance to buy it, read it. I'm actually going to be starting a book series, some of my favorite books, and I'm going to be giving away. I'm going to be kind of doing a raffle here where if you give me your email address or whatever, I'll actually give away sets of books, 5 books at a time. And I really believe so deeply in learning, in reading. There's so much that we need to know to be able to be great leaders. Sometimes what we have to know is what we should have learned or did learn as kids. So kids' books sometimes are some of the best leadership books out there. If you ever want to do any group coaching, any one-on-one leadership coaching, I'd be happy to help you out. I've got a 6-session leadership program, and we will definitely go through a lot of concepts like this. Thank you and take care.